So I want to talk to you this morning about global outreach. Like I said, Centers for Spiritual Living and Global Services is sponsoring this day for global outreach, and I was amazed at the amount of information that they offered about what they're doing. Centers for Spiritual Living is the organization that we belong to, hence the name Vision of Center for Spiritual Living. And they sent a lot of PowerPoint information you'll see on the screen, pictures of some of the projects that are happening. I offer those to you to make it a little bit more personal. There's pictures of some of the people doing the work and some information about that. And so I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about something that this week, we had a little bit of unrest in the world this week, and so I just want to talk about that for a second. Like I said, the unrest this week is a global event, and so I know that sometimes it's a little hard to take in, a little hard to take in less than peace, because we talk about peace all the time here in Science of Mind, and it's a little bit hard to know what to do with all that. And so what we want to do, I know, is to honor the people who are having unrest in their life, less than peace, and it's something that's hard to understand. We want to understand in the physical world what's happening, and sometimes we just can't. Life is a mystery, and there's some things that we just can't understand, and we just kind of have to accept that and know that on some level it is understood, and that if everything's God, there's nothing that's not. There's that phrase that we learn in foundations class: if everything's God, there's nothing that's not. And so we just have to trust that sometimes. And so I think some of the greatest outreach that we can do, and that's something that we can do today, is continue to know love and continue to know peace and to just stand in that truth. And so what I'm offering and asking, what I'm doing myself, is to just surround the whole situation with love. And just to know the globe and to know the Middle East and to know our leaders and just surround them with love because that's what we know is the truth. And so I would just offer and ask today that we surround that whole situation with love, and especially those that are in the midst of it, our leaders, because they're in a heavy situation. So I want to read the quote from today again, just to remind us that if we're willing to look deeply enough into each other, getting past all of our judgments and fears about our differences, we'll be able to see what we have in common. And contained within that wisdom lies the potential for lasting peace. So getting past all of our judgments and fears about each other lies the potential for lasting peace. And so I just wanted to offer that again today, and to know that as we stand in the midst of all of the unrest, there is potential for lasting peace. And we know that that is the truth of God. We teach that every day here at Vision. So let's remember that. Okay, so that is the greatest outreach that we have to talk about today. So the talk is complete. And now we get to talk about some of the things that Global Services is doing. And what we have for ourselves is a real visionary idea, and it's a really big idea that we hold. And that big idea takes into account the law of incorporation. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but the idea of the law of incorporation is that a big idea takes into account all the smaller ideas within it. So it is something that we plan on taking in. The vision is to feed 100 million people, and that's no small task. CSL and Vision, because we're a part of it, hold that same idea, is to feed and to teach and to house and to know good for 100 million people. So that's no small task. The idea is to support and seed teaching chapters and small groups around the world, one by one by one by one, because as you drop that drop of water into the pond, it becomes the drop that spreads throughout the world. And so these are catalysts for change, catalysts for consciousness to grow, catalysts for people to identify with, catalysts for the heart and mind of God to spread. And so that is the idea of prosperity. The miracle moments that we talk about here every week? It's those miracle moments to go throughout the world. People may not call them that, but that's what happens. It's a good thing. And so today we support the work of many throughout the world. I'm going to show you a few of those coming up. Um, it's supporting global services and that big idea. And I'm just wondering how many people remember the first time you started learning about science of mind, that very first time, you know? I'm just remembering mine, and I kind of chuckle with the first one because it was in Foundations class many years ago with Steve Cooper. Some of you might know Steve Cooper, and he's got some famous ideas about his classes. And it was, he's got some real interesting teaching techniques. Mine was he uses scarves. We had these scarves that we danced with, these long scarves, and we wandered around the rooms swinging these scarves. And there was like 20 of us in the room swinging these scarves and stuff. And it just hit me that we're all doing the same thing and swinging these scarves. You know, I kind of like that stuff anyway. And so it just gave me this idea of this bigger idea of people. We're all doing the same thing. We're making this movement. We're moving in God. And it just gave me an idea of this sense of unity. And I didn't quite know what it was, but my heart opened. We were having fun, and I started to get this sense of spirit, that we were all connected. And so I know that everyone here has their own story, their own idea, and I'm thinking that in every country, in every activity that I'm going to tell you about, everyone has their own beginning, that own seed that's planted. And so everyone begins to awaken to their magnificence, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So the first one I'm going to tell you about is in Costa Rica. So I think there's a slide here that maybe the next one. In Costa Rica, that's Barry and Nancy Stevens, and I think some of you might know them. They're from Pacific Church Days, and they have a center in Costa Rica, and it's really grown a lot. The story that he tells is of a man who, when he first met him, he would talk to him, and he would always pull his pockets out and say, "I have no money, and I'm poor, and I have nowhere to go," and he'd pull his pockets out. And Barry, he just didn't believe that, because he was there to start a Science of Mind Center, and he didn't believe that. And so he started teaching them, and slowly, I don't know how slowly it was, but the man started to change his beliefs, change his thinking, and over time, the man started declaring good for himself, and now he's doing well. This man who used to, pull his pockets open. And so now they have, what are the numbers here? They've been going for 10 years. They have 126 children in 16 schools in Costa Rica, 4 in Panama. They've administered 32 microloans. They have 150 people a week in their community kitchen. So, yay. Now, and so here's a quote from Barry. Barry says, "Most importantly, we're spending time helping people get and keep a vision that they can, even after 5,000 years of living in poverty, work their way into a different lifestyle. This is where Science of Mind comes in, one-on-one, hands-on, no books, no classes." So they're really doing a good job down there. So the next one I have for you is in Mexico, and today's Mexican Independence Day, by the way. So that's good. Today's Mexican Independence Day. The story from there is 10 years ago, Dr. Rebecca Pina started, and someone can correct my pronunciation if you like, Ciencia de Mente Espiritu Mexico. That may be close or may not. But anyway, she translated books, she taught classes, she started a foundations class for practitioners there, and she was encouraging humanitarian work. And she taught one woman named Tere Ruiz, and part of her practitioner studies was that she started and became part of a school for girls. And as part of her practitioner studies, she had a project there, a paper or a movie. I think she made a movie. And to this, after 10 years, the school is still going on. There's, age 9? 9 girls, 7 to 15. The school is still going on, and she's teaching other people to be practitioners there after all this time. So it's a continuing thing. The teaching still goes on. The teaching still grows from this work that started however many years ago. So again, the teaching grows and grows and grows. It's amazing. So the next slide is from the Philippines. There's a religious science center there. They call it the Religious Science of Man Center. They actually made the Philippine version of The Secret there, the movie The Secret. and they call it One Race. That's the English translation of it. And there's a leader of the center there named Ruel Ruiz, who was suffering from kidney failure. It was after the movie was made. He was suffering from kidney failure, and he called into Global Services, and Global Services and his center started prayer requests, just like we do in the boxes here. They started prayer requests, and after some time, he actually called into the Global Center saying that he had been healed. So again, combining the services of the United States, the Philippines, and everywhere that he could find support, another miracle moment there in the Philippines. So that's another amazing one. All over the world. Now you see it's spreading all over the world, Global Services. Another one, Kenya. This one was Reverend Connie Phillips in Nairobi. This is an interesting one. She went there to teach 4th and 5th grade and high school students. And she brought her books and her papers and to teach foundations class and all the regular classes. And what she found is that the people there, they couldn't quite learn the paper and pencil way because they were hungry. And they just couldn't learn the way she intended. And so what she did is she taught them to fish rather than be fed. And so after some time, they did learn to fish. They got their bellies full. I don't know if that's the term she used, but they got their bellies full. And after some time, they were able to start learning the teaching, and not through pens and paper, but through example, through living it. And after some time, they began to learn the teaching, becoming practitioners, and science of mind principles. And I'm sure it's gone on further from then, but that's the example they gave for us to share with you. So over and over and over and over and over, you can see all the different levels and ways that science of mind is applied. Because here in the United States, we see communities like this where I was going to use simple, but that's not exactly what I mean. It's we see each other in similar ways of application, and so it's really interesting to me to see the different ways it's applied. The next slide is from Russia. And Russia, a lot of people know the Russian trips people make. A lot of people have traveled to Russia. Science of Mind has been going there. We've been going there for 22 years. So it's a well-established Science of Mind community there. There's a woman named Maria. There, thank you. Thank you. More well known as Masha. And she has been a practitioner there. She teaches. And she's also on the board of Global Services, and I think that's why we mention her here. And she was also visiting about probably a year and a half ago, and she made a tour of some local Science of Mind churches. I got to meet her. She brought some kids here, some youth, and they were traveling in a van around Southern California. And the kids, it was so amazing. The kids were doing spiritual practice over Skype, and they were. I forgot the countries, Ukraine and Russia, and about 4 or 5 countries, and they would do spiritual practice in the morning on Skype, and then they came over here and they were traveling in a VW Bug or something like that, and they said language wasn't stopping them, but they were connecting in heart through spiritual practice. So it was amazing. And I'm a technology guy, so I was really amazed by the Skype part, So there's another example. Of an outreach. The next slide is there's a woman named Reverend Kath De Palma, and she's from Florida, and she went to Tanzania, Africa, and she wanted to. They were feeding hungry people in Africa through a program called Outreach Incorporated, and Outreach Incorporated prepares food packages to share with other people, and she met them, and she found out that she learned that she wanted to do that in her own hometown in Florida, and so she hooked up with Outreach and did some projects there in Florida, 2 events actually, and they raised $20,000 and $80,000, $20,000 for 80,000 meals there in Florida. And she's the one that actually brought together Outreach Incorporated and Global Services, and that's what founded this project that we're doing here now, with Outreach Services and Outreach Incorporated and Global Services. they do food packaging projects and for Tanzania. So that's what we're going to be participating in right now is the Global Services Food Project. And that's what's happening around the country right now is all the centers are raising money to participate in this project. And that's what we get to be a part of by donating money. Or you can go to Denver and package food too if you want. That's happening on October 27th. So again, it's becoming part of that huge idea to feed people that are hungry. So like I said, this year it's in Tanzania. Every year it's in a different place. If you want to go on to the next slide here. The greatest we know that there's enough resources on the planet to feed everybody. We know this by science and by principles, but we also know it in a physical way too. And so that is what this project is all about, is to be able to take the resources to Tanzania. So the food project is the 27th. They're packaging food, taking it to Tanzania. So we're raising money today to do that, and we can do that by designated donation. We're going to be making 285,100 meals. Imagine that, 285,100 meals, okay? The world is waiting for this. The world is waiting for people like us to share our consciousness, to share our physical expression by donating, and to share our time by making these meals. And so, like I said, the donations that are happening today are designated donations. Every dollar that we donate, 75% is going to go for the meals, 25% is going to go to global outreach to share science and mind in the world, and 25% is going to vision for our good works that we're sharing in the world too. So that'll be happening during contribution times. Oh, did I get it wrong? 75, 25, and 25. Oh. All right. I wrote it. Yeah. Yeah. 50, 25, and 25, okay? Sorry. We'll get it right when we divide it up, okay? 50, 25, and 25. All right. Minute of silence. The important part is the food is going to Tanzania, and we're supporting it with 50% of our dollars, okay? Like I said, the packaging will take place on the 27th. And like the one project, it's to feed the people first. Then the next idea is clean water, then medical care, then education, then loans, and then to start teaching them with the paper and pencil, and to teaching them science and mind principles. So to bring it all together, there's 3 ways that we can do outreach here today. One is in consciousness, to know peace, to know love, to know outreach for ourselves and around the world. 2 is through our designated donations, which are going to happen at contribution time. There'll be 2 baskets going around. And 3, by growing in consciousness ourselves, by being that drop in the water, by being that centered drop. And so this is what we learn every single day. And so I don't know if you can feel in the room right now the peace that's right here, the love that's right here every day. If you can feel that, then that is what we do. Okay? That is the abundance. That is the love that we share. And so I want to close with a quote from a medieval mystic. His name is Methchild of Magdeburg. And mostly it's his quote, not his name, that I want to share. He writes, "The day of my spiritual awakening was the day I saw and knew all things in God and God in all things." Thank you. Yeah,